So, for the ones that haven't watched the extended version, I would like to give a short introduction to the CiSe platform now. So, why do we need CiSe? In the linear economy, we extract raw materials from the earth, turn them into half fabricates, assemble them into products, and sell them to users, adding value in every step. After a relatively short lifespan, however, these products are thrown away and end up in landfill. The business model is selling as many products as possible that are nearly broken, so that you can continue to sell as many products as possible. This linear way of doing business assumes that raw materials remain available indefinitely, and we all know they are not. In fact, they're running out. Therefore, we need another new economic mindset. That's where the circular economy comes into play. A key distinction of the circular economy is the need to consider the entire life cycle of a resource. Resources must remain functioning at their highest level for as long as possible and must be re-entered into the system to create value again and again. An important business model for this circular future is the shift from ownership to use. In such a business model, we will start buying clean laundry rather than a washing machine. As a customer, I would pay a use fee for using the asset, so using the washing machine, or the outcome of the asset, which is clean laundry. I do not want anything to do with replacing parts. I just want the machine to work. The materials or parts, when the machine is broken, are not my problem. And ideally, also the energy and water bill are not of my concern. Such a business model provides a financial incentive to fundamentally rethink the product, making sure the machine lasts as long as possible with as little maintenance or involvement as possible, and as energy efficient as possible as well. Clean laundry providers must therefore fundamentally rethink their product. Responsibility shifts from the end user to the provider, and the more sustainable the product is, the more he earns. Take, for example, Bundles and Homey. They offer such a service around the washing machine. Homey offers a pure form of pay-per-use and charges a fee per wash. And depending on the sustainability of a certain washing program, prices are adjusted. This way, customers are nudged into sustainable consumption. Bundles combines a fixed monthly fee with a fee per washing cycle. In both cases, the service provider, so Bundles and Homey, are responsible for installation, maintenance, and repair of the machine, but also replacement if the machine becomes outdated or broken. A device is attached to the washing machine, which monitors its usage, and statistics gathered from the machine are translated into tips and insights to reduce the overall costs of doing laundry, including energy, water, and detergent consumption. It also gives feedback on the effect of different sorting, dosing, and programming schemes. This way, not only the cost for the customer are reduced, but also the life of the machine is extended. A win-win situation. Currently, Bundles and Homey purchase all services, consumables, and assets up front and bundle them into a service proposition for their customers. A much heard critique of their business models is that they have limited influence on the design of the washing machine. However, their current goal is first to seduce asset manufacturers, so Miele in the case of Bundles and Zanussi in the case of Homey, to seduce these asset manufacturers and consumable providers to start developing products that better fit this new story of circularity. We have found, however, that similar challenges arise for manufacturers. Even though manufacturers generally have a well-established well-established business and therefore rely on capital buffers from other business units, it is difficult to attract finance specifically for the upfront financing of the assets that are being serviced. Moreover, there are oftentimes only assemblers, and to optimize lifecycle performance, the service aggregator, whether it is the manufacturer or not, heavily depends on its value chain. Better lifecycle guarantees can be negotiated with chain partners, for example through guarantees or even buyback agreements, but the best way to align incentives towards circularity is to integrate all chain partners involved in the business model. A full service proposition involves hardware, consumables, and services. Those chain partners should also take responsibility for their part in functioning of the asset. For a washing machine, this would entail, for example, the providers of the motor, or the drum, or even steel, or the water pump. And these chain partners would then be compensated based on performance of their assets. Similarly, so this would eventually lead to a reduction of sales models in the value chain and would spread the upfront investments that are required over the whole supply chain. Lifecycle performance would become a shared responsibility of all participants in the network. And in such a system, an innovation at one point in the network would benefit all participants directly. This creates leverage to share risks and benefits. However, this can only work if there is trust and openness in this network. Back to reality. Why aren't we there yet? Firstly, there is a lack of access to capital to purchase these assets in sufficient quantities to scale up the business. This is aggravated by operating this use model, which leads to tied up capital, in other words, revenues that are incremental and only available over an extended period. In addition, the financing costs are high due to the specific financing needs, which are not yet mainstream. The funding need is namely based on many small sums. It depends on the growth of your customer base. Whereas in current finance practice, it is preferred to lend or invest a big sum at once, rather than small tickets. Financing these assets requires therefore new financial products with a focus on cash flows rather than the asset, on partnerships rather than single companies, and assessing the future rather than the history. Currently, however, financiers lack good insight in the risks and returns and are therefore reluctant to finance these types of businesses. We will return to the financing issues later on. Another barrier to scaling the circular model is the increased complexity of management, planning, and ownership. The more actors that are involved offering services around an asset changes ownership and responsibilities regarding this asset. Legal challenges arise as liabilities and responsibilities become more complex. And there's more than one finger to point in case something goes wrong. Additionally, relationships with clients are intended to be long-term and are shaped via contracts and agreements. This leads to increased costs for managing receivables, invoicing and credit checks, executing and enforcing contracts, and tracking the performance of the assets and the services. And as the network grows, the complexity of the corresponding administration grows too. And lastly, all this complexity of management leads to generally high transaction costs, which are the sum of high administrative costs, legal costs for contract management, high financing costs, and logistics. All these high costs lower the competitive power of circular services. So this is where the circular service platform, CiSe platform, comes in. Let's take bundles again a moment as example. From the perspective of the user, it works as follows. In an online shop, circular subscriptions are displayed that are provided by the CiSe network participants. A user chooses a service and is assigned a digital wallet with which the units of service can be paid. The balance in the wallet represent tokens and are called micro-euros, as it is possible to be charged a sum smaller than 1 euro cent. Tokens in a wallet represent a receivable denominated in national currency. Tokens that are earned or deposited can be exchanged into national currency at any time. Alternatively, tokens can be used to finance new assets or tech refreshes inside the platform. When the service is chosen, the corresponding use contract, stating price and terms, and the token contract, that states the terms on which the wallet can be charged, are cryptographically signed. Bundles supplies a washing machine and everything needed for clean laundry. In a shared location, the account of the customer, its wallet, is connected to the assets through scanning a barcode. When the appliance is used within a household, the account needs to be connected to the asset only once. Now the user can start consuming units of service and the user's wallet is charged automatically. Sustainable choices of consumption can be rewarded by charging lower fees for it, or pricing schemes can also be used for nudging users towards specific behavior, such as washing during off-peak hours or small maintenance tasks. After the user has paid the fee for the unit of service, the payment is automatically distributed via smart contracts to all companies involved in the service. Service providers, such as bundles, hardware providers, such as the washing machine manufacturer, but also consumable providers, such as suppliers of washing detergents, water, or energy. Also, the finance provider for this asset can be included in the payment distribution. Note that the role of finance provider can be taken up by anyone on the platform. Suppose, for example, that Miele, the manufacturer, does not want to provide its washing machine in a use model by providing all sorts of services along the way, but sold his device to the platform under the ongoing obligation that he will take it back and reuse the raw materials. Instead of attracting finance providers for this upfront investment, Miele could also say, just provide me with a use fee or monthly fee for the provision of the device. Then he actually chose to be a finance provider of his own product and he becomes a service provider on the platform. The same could work for end users or any other party. There are therefore many flavors to being a participant in the platform that provide opportunities for developing new financial products adapted to circular dynamics. This model has been successfully tested with coffee makers, cars, and milking robots, and can be applied to all sorts of service networks for services as varied as lighting, transport, or elevators. The ledger underlying the platform records all receivables that are generated on asset level. So all generated cash flows can be ring-fenced, that means isolated, and therefore limiting the recovery of investments to specific assets. This enables the diversification of investments on asset level, having, for example, a portfolio of different assets, asset types, and risk profiles. Service providers, finance providers, and other actors that create value around the asset are connected to the asset through smart contracts that execute payments to their corresponding wallets. Questions regarding who cashes the tokens first, how are investment needs and opportunity communicated to the platform, what criteria are necessary to base investment decisions on, will be explored in a later session. I would like to finish this exposition with a demo with coffee machines that was done last year. The demo is made by Rabobank's innovation team, Henk and Rob, that are the founding fathers and developers of the prototype of CiSe. Featured in this demo are Kees, a lawyer at Allen & Overy that consumes a cappuccino, Bundles that provides the coffee service, Mailly that supplies the machine with coffee beans, and Egbert as a finance provider. To close off, I want to list the most important goals of CiSe. An important driver for our journey to CiSe is to enable scale, a way to increase volume to allow circular markets to emerge. This is enabled by tapping into standard, scalable financial, legal, and governance structures and the bundling of assets and finance providers. A second goal is to facilitate collaboration and the management of complexity by enabling the exchange of transactions and information between large networks of participants. Through a shared and solid governance structure, collaboration can take place on a large scale. Thirdly, we aim CiSe to be an intermediary mechanism that improves the financiability of the circular model hugely, as it aggregates finance providers, assets, and actors, which might make the normally unfinanceable now financeable. 4. It explains and it aims to radically lower transaction costs for administration, contract management, and financing costs. And this could improve the competitiveness of serviced assets hugely against the dominant current linear model. Lastly, a main driver and goal for CiSe is to be independent, distributive, and reliable by design. This goal is reached through the validation of the system that the system gets from all the established parties surrounding it, such as financial institutions, law, and accountancy firms. The independent, democratic, not-for-profit governance structure that underlies it, and the distributive design of the business model that is not based on transaction fees. In other words, the platform itself is not for profit and not the source of commercial activity, but it acts as an independent infrastructure. Thank you for your attention.